Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report, and we got some breaking news to discuss. The Las Vegas Raiders are going to be cutting Jimmy Garoppolo tomorrow, and it is not going to be a post-June 1st cut. This news is rolling in here from Dianna Russini, and I do find it very interesting that the Raiders are deciding to not designate him as a post-June 1st cut. However, when you look at the logistics of Garoppolo's contract and with the amount of contracts that Jimmy G has done here with this Raiders team, I'm going to tell you why the Raiders are deciding to cut him now instead of designating him as a post-June 1st cut, which I actually thought was going to happen. Now, one of the people that is putting out there that the Raiders are not going to designate him as a post-June 1st cut is Tashawn Reed here on Twitter, and he says that the Raiders will cut Garoppolo straight up, so they're going to free up $11.3 million in immediate cap space when they cut him tomorrow. So if you remember, the Raiders had to make a decision on Garoppolo by the 17th, but there's also another deadline, which was by the 13th on top of that. So by the Raiders here deciding that, you know what, we're not going to do the post-June 1st cut and cutting him right away, yes, you're going to eat more dead money, but you are going to have this money ready to spend right away at $11.3 million. So the news originally, though, came in from Dianna Russini that said that the Raiders are expected to cut quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo tomorrow, according to sources, and she said that there are a few teams interested. There probably is going to be a team or two that's interested in Jimmy G, and Garoppolo is probably going to end up signing a cheap veteran backup type of deal to go to another roster to just sit there and be what Jimmy G is, a backup quarterback in the NFL. But, let's be realistic here. We knew that this was a horrible move by Josh McDaniels, and I want everybody right now, because there's not too often that I make a video that I'm very confident that all 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, however many people watch this video, everybody's happy that Jimmy Garoppolo just got cut. This was a worthless signing by the Raiders and Josh McDaniels. And as far as I'm concerned, as much as we can wipe our hands clean with the cancer that is Josh McDaniels, I'm willing to wipe my hands clean with literally everything, because the moment that the Raiders signed Jimmy G, I stood up here on this show, heck, even before that, and I begged the Raiders. I sat up here and I said the worst thing possible that this organization could do last offseason is give Garoppolo a contract. So what does Josh, the idiot, clown McDaniels do? Gives Garoppolo a 3-year, $72 million contract. The Raiders gave this guy $72 million to put up the numbers that you just saw up on screen. It was a terrible signing. It just goes to show that Josh McDaniels has no idea what he's doing. But you know what? We're moving forward here with Antonio Pierce. We're moving forward here with Tom Telesco, and I think it's the right decision. Here's going to be a fun question, though. It's going to be the pinned comment on today's show. Was the signing of Jimmy Garoppolo at 3 years, $72 million, the worst free agency signing in Raiders history? Not NFL, in Raiders history. Scroll on down and let me know, yes or no. My answer after this YouTube ad break. At the quarterback position, I'd say yes, it is. Luckily, Jimmy G did his own little dumb thing here and took the performance-enhancing drugs, and the Raiders aren't going to be on the hook for as much money as what they originally would have been on the hook for. If Jimmy G doesn't get hit with the PEDs, then I think a lot more people are like, yeah, we literally just threw $72 million down the drain. And yes, the Raiders did waste a little bit of money, no doubt about that. However, I do think the Trent Brown signing's got to be a name to throw out there, right? The Raiders essentially paid him $71,000 per snap. Another name that comes to mind, Corey Littleton, 3-year, $36 million. LaMarcus Joyner was a bad move. And these are just some in the most recent years. If there's other signings, bad signings by the Raiders that I am forgetting, please let me know down in the comments section below. Now, the breaking news here is this, that the Raiders are going to be moving on from Jimmy Garoppolo, and this is a move that we knew was going to happen. This was a move that was expected. And when it does officially happen tomorrow, we'll also talk about it, but I'm live here on the Raiders Report right now, and anytime breaking news happens, we got you covered. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you turn on those notifications, because anybody can talk about breaking news. It's actually not that difficult. Anybody can be a person that reiterates, hey, Jimmy Garoppolo's getting cut, but the reason why you watch this show is to learn the why, and I'm going to tell you on today's show why the Raiders decided to cut Jimmy Garoppolo and not designate him as a post-June 1st cut, but to designate him as a outright cut right now. So if you haven't, hit that subscribe button. For Las Vegas, they've been looking for a quarterback. Originally, remember, we had Jimmy Garoppolo come in. They were looking for somebody that was going to be a little bit better than Derek Carr, and I'll tell you right now, Derek Carr was light years better than Jimmy G was. I mean, that's a cold, hard fact. The problem was you went from one quarterback in Derek that wasn't a franchise QB, and you went with another QB and Jimmy Garoppolo, let's face it, was also not a franchise style of quarterback. So you forced Brian Hoyer to go on the field. You forced Aidan O'Connell to go on the field. And what's even more frustrating is the Raiders actually thought Jimmy G was going to be healthy. And I'm actually happy that he wasn't healthy, because when he was on the field, he was really, really bad. So the fact now that the Raiders, they needed to make a decision before March 17th, this was something that we knew, and that Garoppolo, if he would have been on the Raiders by March 17th, he would have made an extra $11.25 million. By Las Vegas doing this, I do think it's the right thing to do by Jimmy G. He was a player that was liked and respected in that locker room. You're giving him an opportunity to still go out and sign with some football team. But the reason why I do find this a little bit intriguing is because of, if the Raiders would have cut him and they would have designated it as a post-June 1st cut. Now, if you remember, NFL teams can designate 2 players in an offseason to be post-June 1st cuts. I'm a believer that one of them is going to be Hunter Renfrow. Just makes sense. And I thought the other one was going to be potentially Jimmy Garoppolo. So when you designate a player as a post-June 1st cut, you cut them from your roster, but you don't get the money until after June 1st. So if the Raiders would have went this route, they could have saved $24 million. You would have eaten $4.27 million. However, the Raiders would have still, and this is the reason why they did this, the Raiders still would have had to pay, if my math is mathing correctly here, about, you're looking at $12 million next offseason in dead cap space. And so by the Raiders deciding to go this route, you're not going to have to pay all that dead money next year. The way that they're doing is they're going, wiping their hands clean with it. They are going to eat $17 million. By cutting Jimmy Garoppolo today, tomorrow, they are going to eat $17 million, but they are saving $11.3, and they want to be able to use that $11.3 now instead of holding on to the money and using the $24 million after post-June 1st. So to me, the Raiders got a guy in mind, or they have maybe a few players in mind that they're looking for and that they're going out and getting, because you make a move like this because you want to be aggressive in free agency. So my question down there below is, who do you want to sign with the Jimmy Garoppolo money? I do want to add this. It hasn't been official yet that it's hit the books, but the Raiders are obviously already moving on from Brian Hoyer. You're already moving on from Jerry Tillery. So when you add the Jerry Tillery money, the Brian Hoyer $92,000, and now the $11.3 million with Jimmy Garoppolo, you're going to be somewhere around $13.6 million of extra money that you're going to add. And according to Spotrac, as it stands right now, the Raiders are somewhere around $29 million of salary cap money. So with the addition of 13, let's just say right now the Raiders are going to be somewhere around $44 million after these moves end up happening and going down tomorrow. For me, some of the names that I'd like the Raiders to go out and get, I want a number 1 corner. If Antonio Pierce is going to call it a priority to get a number 1 corner on this roster, a name that I'm going to look at is Kendall Fuller. Kendall Fuller is the number 1 corner out there available. Another corner, probably a little bit less expensive, is Xavier Howard. I think he's got some juice left in his step. Maybe even a dude like a Dory Jackson. Those would be the top 3 corners that I would target right now. A name that I'll just continue to throw out there at the linebacker position, maybe somebody like a Devin White. He's got some connections with Mike Caldwell from their time back with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when Caldwell was an inside linebacker coach. Definitely a name to keep in mind. I know that some people wanted the Raiders to go out and address the running back room. I'm good in the running back room, only looking to draft in that regard. And if you can add at least another offensive guard, maybe an offensive tackle, the Raiders are confident in Thayer Munford, but I would like the Silver and Black to add an offensive guard, maybe like a Greg Van Roten, and just be that 6th man to just incorporate and build a little bit more depth there in the trenches. So as it stands right now, these are the Raiders free agency moves. You're able to re-sign Amir Abdullah to a 1-year, $1.85 million deal. Special teams, scat back type of guy. Andre James, really, really good move there. I know it says offensive tackle. He is a center, though, for the Raiders, obviously. Signed a 3-year, $24 million deal. Wilkins was the big winner there. I mean, huge, big-time defensive tackle. And then Gardner Minshew at the quarterback position. These are the 4 moves that the Raiders have made so far. And, yeah, you've missed out on Meek went to the Lions. Josh Jacobs went to the Packers. Bilal Nichols went to the Arizona Cardinals. I'm trying to think of some other moves off the top of my head. Jermaine Illuminor goes to the New York Giants. I do think the Raiders put their priorities in the right spot, building in the trenches. This one I'm still a little bit uneasy about, despite what some tweets might say out there, right? If you want to give me a follow on IG or on Twitter, I want you to find me that I'm at Mitchell Renz 365, and anytime that Raiders news happens, I do my best to keep you guys, like, right away. Like, I try to keep you guys up to date with everything going on as soon as it happens. IG, Twitter. I will say, if you want to get to know, like, me and my personal life a little bit more, if you want more dog stuff from Chuck, my fiance, IG. But a lot of news I'm always tweeting out every single day, so stay up to date. Again, y'all, we are live here on the Raiders Report. We're having a day. Chugs and I have been live for multiple hours here. We're going to be live for the remainder of today as well. Probably going to be live for another 2, 3, 4 hours. We'll see how some of this breaking news happens. So if you're not watching this video live right now, pull up here to the Raiders Report, subscribe, join in, because live right now we got over 2,600 people watching. I don't know about you. I like hanging out with 2,600 Raider fans, so make sure you pull up here to the live stream.